The European playoffs will be taking place in March of 2026, and 16 nations will be looking to secure their spot at the 2026 FIFA World Cup. After 10 thrilling match days that produced some of the most incredible football of the season, 12 second-place teams are going to the playoffs in 4 months' time, followed by the 4 best Nations League group winners. So earlier today, UEFA held the European playoff draw in Switzerland, and there's quite a lot to unpack here. 16 teams were placed into 4 playoff paths, and they look something like this. Italy, Northern Ireland, Wales, and Bosnia and Herzegovina make up playoff path A, while Ukraine, Sweden, Poland, and Albania make up playoff path B. On the other side of the draw, Turkey, Romania, Slovakia, and Kosovo make up playoff path C, while Denmark, North Macedonia, Czechia, and the Republic of Ireland make up playoff path D. So there really is a lot to talk about in these European playoffs, but let's start off in playoff path A, where the first matchup is Wales taking on Bosnia and Herzegovina, followed by Italy taking on Northern Ireland in the second matchup. So in the first game between Wales and the Bosnia and Herzegovina, there is a lot to talk about here. Both teams finished in second place in the European Qualifiers, and they both did pretty well in their respective groups. On paper, they are pretty even in terms of manpower and talent going into this, but the first game will be played at the Cardiff City Stadium in Wales, so Wales do have a home advantage there. So it's going to be really interesting to see who comes out on top in that game. Moving on to the Italy and Northern Ireland matchup, there's a lot to talk about here as well. As we all know, Italy have been in the playoffs for the past 2 World Cup qualifying editions in 2018 and 2022, and as we all know, it didn't go too well for them. They failed to qualify for both of those World Cups, and the pressure really is on them right now to qualify for 2026. So in this game, we're not sure exactly which venue in Italy will be hosting this match, but Italy are the hosts in this one. Honestly, I don't think Northern Ireland have the manpower, have the capability to beat Italy in this game, even if it is the playoffs. So for playoff path A, my predictions will be the following. Wales are going to win their match against Bosnia and Herzegovina to make it to the final, and Italy will beat Northern Ireland to make it to the final as well. So this game will be held in Wales as well. So this game will probably be played in Cardiff as well. Italy do not have the home advantage in this one, and because of that, Wales have an enormous advantage playing at home. I think the pressure is going to get to Italy because they have to qualify for this World Cup by winning this game. And Wales playing at home, they're going to have momentum, they're going to have the hype of the crowd. Italy is going to succumb to the pressure, and at the end of the day, I think that Wales will qualify from playoff path A, knocking out Italy in the process. Moving on to playoff path B, we have Ukraine taking on Sweden in the first match and Poland taking on Albania in the second match. So in the first game between Ukraine and Sweden, there's a lot to talk about here as well. Ukraine don't have a home field advantage as they will be playing their matches in Poland, so this is kind of a neutral game for both sides. Ukraine finished as the runners-up in their group, while Sweden had an awful qualifying campaign that didn't come away with a single win in their group, and they qualified as one of the top 4 teams from the Nations League. So going into this game, if Sweden can't change how they've been playing, if they can't gather some momentum to go into this, even with their star-studded lineup of Viktor Gyökeres and Alexander Isak, I think Ukraine can honestly pull off the upset and get a win in this game, knocking out Sweden in the process. If we take a look at the other game between Poland and Albania, there isn't really a whole lot to talk about here. I feel like on paper, Poland are the stronger team. They still have Robert Lewandowski, they still have a lot of really good players in their squad, and they will be playing at home. So I don't really think Albania have much of a chance in this one. For my predictions for playoff path B, I'm going to say that Ukraine beats Sweden and Poland beat Albania to make it to the final. And then in the final game, it's going to be really close between these two sides. I think both of them really want to qualify for the World Cup. There's a lot at stake here. But simply because Poland have the home field advantage in this one, I'm going to say that they win this playoff path and they qualify for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Moving on to the matches that I will be paying the most attention to, it's playoff path C, which contains Slovakia and Kosovo in the first match, followed by Turkey and Romania in the second match. So in the first game between Slovakia and Kosovo, this is going to be a really interesting game as well. I think they are pretty solid. They're both pretty level in terms of talent on the pitch. Slovakia did have a crazy win against Germany on the first match day in the European Qualifiers, so they do have some momentum there, but they just came off a 6-0 loss to Germany on the final match day as well, so it's not really sure how they're going to be playing. Kosovo did have a draw in their last game, so they have some momentum going into this as well, but honestly, I don't really know how this game is going to go. It's going to be pretty close for sure. Now, taking our attention over to Turkey versus Romania, this is the game that I'm most excited for, but it's also the matchup that I was least hoping for going into this draw. I think Turkey are one of the strongest teams in the playoffs, and of the pot 1 teams that we could have matched up against, I think Turkey is honestly one of the hardest to go up against, especially because we're going to be playing in Turkey in this game. They do have the home field advantage. As much as I want to root for Romania, as much as I want to see them make the World Cup for the first time since 1998, I just don't think they can do that against Turkey unless a miracle happens, especially considering how they played in the European qualifiers. They weren't too solid in their group. So with that being said, I'm going to say that Slovakia beats Kosovo in their game and Turkey beats Romania in their game to make it to the final. And then in the final match between Slovakia and Turkey, I think Turkey are going to be the stronger side, even though the match will be played in Slovakia. I think Turkey have what it takes to qualify. I think they're going to win that game by a comfortable margin, and they will be going back to the World Cup. So now we're moving on to the final playoff path in these European playoffs, that being playoff path D, which contains Czechia taking on Ireland in the first match, and Denmark taking on North Macedonia in the second match. So in the first game between Czechia and Ireland, this is going to be a really close game in my opinion. If you would have told me a few weeks ago or even a few months ago that Ireland would have won their last 3 matches in the European qualifiers, especially beating Portugal and then beating Hungary in the way that they did, I wouldn't have believed you. So honestly, I think Ireland have the momentum going into this game. I think they have the talent. I think they have the belief. I think they have the fans on their side, especially after their crazy wins against Portugal and Hungary. Czechia aren't a bad side by any means. They really do have some good players on their team, but simply based on momentum going into these playoffs, I think Ireland might have the advantage in this one. And then we take our attention over to Denmark versus North Macedonia. There isn't a whole lot to be said here. Denmark honestly choked on the final match day when they lost to Scotland and failed to qualify directly, but they are taking on North Macedonia, who are good in their own right. They beat Italy in the playoffs a few years ago to make it to the next game, then they lost, so there is a lot to be said about them. But honestly, if I'm being completely honest with my predictions, I think Czechia will lose to Ireland in their game, and then Denmark will win against Northern Macedonia to set up an Ireland versus Denmark final. So this final match will be played in Ireland, most likely at the Aviva Stadium in Dublin, and considering how crazy the atmosphere was in their last match against Portugal, which saw them win 2-0, I think Ireland will just win based on momentum, based on the fans, just based on how the form of the team is at the moment. So that being said, Ireland will be advancing to the World Cup, knocking Denmark in the process. So that is how the 16 nations will be taking part in the European playoffs next year. The games will be taking place from March 26th to March 31st of 2026. So there is about 4 months left to get there, but there is a lot to look forward to. That being said, my predictions for the playoffs are Wales will win playoff path A, Poland will win playoff path B, Turkey will win playoff path C, and the Republic of Ireland will win playoff path D. These 4 teams will take up the last 4 European spots at the 2026 FIFA World Cup, and I genuinely can't wait to see what happens in these playoffs. But which of the 4 playoff paths are you most interested in? Has your nation already qualified for the 2026 FIFA World Cup, or will they also be playing in the European playoffs? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more football content, tier lists, and everything in between, and as always, I'll catch you next time.